Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on, good Lord, a heat wave in Nashville, Tennessee. It's up to like 35 degrees. Imagine that. And it's a beautiful Friday in Nashville. Over the weekend, it'll get up into the 40s. And then I want to read this because I hardly believe it. Monday, 59 for a high. Tuesday, 61 and 65 degrees on Wednesday. So not only is it going to get better, it's going to get a bunch better in a big old hurry. Kelly Holcomb has the day off. Billy Derrick is alongside. For those of you who, I guess there's no way you wouldn't know this if you're watching. Today we are podcast only because of a Vanderbilt baseball game that started at 2:00. Now, compared to the last few days, they'll probably think it's a heat wave.
Yeah, gosh, it's what is it right now? 35 feels like
35.
Feels like 80 compared to the last
I know
3 days.
It's crazy,
but no, it feels a lot better outside, but it does not feel as good for the United States hockey players after last night.
No, but let's say up front that we both tried to find before we went on the air ratings, and they're just not out yet. A lot of people want to know where, how many people watched this thing last night. My guess is that it's more than Saturday night, just because Saturday night's a night that a lot of people get out. However, the weather, in particular up the coast, probably kept a lot of potential hockey viewers inside, which to me ought to inflate that number. But we'll wait and see.
What a game that was. I mean, that delivered it. And I know we'll get into it in the update and go ahead and tell you that the update is brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online at mortgageladyyusa.com or give her a call, 615-969-4350. That delivered. Now, I thought a big difference in the game, obviously, Connor McDavid scores the game-winning goal deep into overtime. He played a good bit of hockey.
How many minutes into overtime was it?
I mean, I don't remember, but at least 10 minutes into overtime.
Yeah.
But the U.S.'s goals were they earned those. They just kind of chipped them in, but Canada, all three of Canada's goals were pretty, and I thought they played better. They looked a little bit quicker to the puck. The U.S. was the more physical team, but Canada looked like the quicker, faster, a little bit more skilled, at least last night, than the U.S. opposed to their first meeting.
Under the category of whether we have caught up in the United States with Canadian hockey, the answer probably is not quite, but the gap has closed dramatically. And I'll point this out again because it kind of involves facilities like this. We're at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue, and tonight, for instance, they will play host here to a bunch of high schools that will play a tournament, what's called, I believe, the Gene Ash tournament. And I don't really know, excuse me, I don't know what the significance is of the name, but there are a bunch of high schools in this area that will play. Well, think about it. 15 years ago, this kind of stuff didn't happen. And in particular, in the NHL cities that would be considered the non-traditional markets, like Nashville, this kind of stuff, this kind of facility is what is growing hockey in the United States. It's what is allowing what was once a huge gap. Excuse me. In fact, hold on here, Billy.
There we go.
Oh, that was pleasant. So what was once a huge gap between the two countries, I mean, let's face it, everybody in the United States is down about the fact that they lost to Canada in overtime. That tells you right there, the gap has narrowed to about as narrow a gap as you can get. The guys on the ice might tell you there's no difference, and they might be right. At worst, the gap has become very small. The other thing that went on in this tournament, this Four Nations thing, the big beneficiary, I think, of what went on in the last 2 weeks will be the NHL. Because the likelihood is that they got a lot of eyeballs on hockey that normally couldn't care less.
Right.
Just a thought.
I mean, it was awesome. That was so fun to watch, and a lot of people that probably never watched hockey in their life tuned in to last night's game, and boy, did it deliver. Canada beats U.S. 3-2, and that does it for the Four Nations, and the NHL season resumes tomorrow. No games tonight, right?
I don't think so. I think it's Saturday that they start. The announcement's already been made. It was made a week ago that in 2028, they will go back to this deal, except it'll be 8 nations that are involved in it in 2028. My gut feeling is that the NBA is going to look at this and go, why the hell didn't we think about this? I think they copy it. And this is what I think they end up doing to try to solve the All-Star crisis, which has no good answer.
No, they've got to do something to solve that. Also last night, Lipscomb got a big win over North Alabama, 75-63. Both teams are now tied for first in the Atlantic Sun. Big win for the Bisons.
Billy, I was there. To be honest, North Alabama never really threatened. They never really got it closer than about 10. Congratulations to Lenny Acuff and his team, because you're right. With that win, they have vaulted into a tie for first. And unless there's been a change that I don't know about, the ASUN format involves home campuses. And this ought to be really good news for Lipscomb. They've got a real shot to get in the NCAA tournament.
They really do. And they had a shot last year, and I think it was North Alabama that knocked them out.
Might have been.
In the tournament. So big win last night for the Bisons. Tonight, a couple of good games. Number 16 Marquette at Villanova. That's 6:00 on FS1. Number 12 Michigan and number 14 Michigan State in Ann Arbor, 7:00 on Fox. So got a couple of good ones tonight.
And Michigan hates Michigan State, because think about it. Over the last 20 years, it's been Tom Izzo, and Michigan State that has dominated basketball, with brief periods where Michigan has shown their stuff. Michigan is favored tonight, which I don't necessarily agree with, but what do I know?
Tomorrow, busy slate in the SEC. Number 6 Tennessee favored by a half a point at number 7 Texas A&M. You don't see that very often. Virtual pick'em in College Station. That's at 11 a.m. Oklahoma is a 1.5-point underdog at home against number 21 Mississippi State. Number 24 Ole Miss at Vandy, favored by 1. That opened at Vandy minus 1.5. Now it's Ole Miss minus 1.5. So going to be tight tomorrow. Also, number 1 Auburn minus 18. Another monster Auburn line at home against Georgia. Number 2 Florida minus 9.5 at LSU. And number 4 Alabama, big spread here, minus 8.5 against number 17 Kentucky. Alabama needs to respond after.
That's not often over the years that Kentucky's been an 8.5-point dog.
No. Number 15 Missouri minus 1.5 at Arkansas. So big, important game for Arkansas. Also, another basketball note. According to Barry Trammell of the Tulsa World, Bill Self seriously considered taking the Oklahoma State job this past offseason. He's an Oklahoma native. He played for the Cowboys in the 80s. They ended up with Western Kentucky's Steve Lutz, but you wonder if that factors into the Jayhawks not being the normal Jayhawks this year.
Well, if you think back about 3 years ago, the NCAA was on Bill Self's tail hot and heavy. That was the first thing, was a lot of negative publicity about the program. Then you look at what they're putting out there right now. Now, they're going to make the NCAA tournament, but anybody who saw the telecast Tuesday night at BYU took them behind the woodshed.
Mm-hmm.
And as Sean Farnham kept pointing out during the telecast, a lot of it appeared to be a lack of effort on the defensive end. And Billy, that's a bad thing when a coach has to hear that his team isn't giving great effort on the defensive end. That's a bad sign.
Well, and that'll fall on you as the head coach. That's the one thing you don't want to hear, and you don't want to have to say. Yeah, that's the last thing you want to have to say. We didn't play with effort. Kansas is, I'm not sure who they have tomorrow, but need to get back on track because they've had some bad losses here as of late.
They're at home, aren't they? At home to Oklahoma State?
Maybe they are.
Keep going. I'll look for it.
So college football, Nebraska has reportedly opted out of their home-and-home series against Tennessee for 2026 and 2027 on Twitter.
Really?
Yep. On Twitter, Danny White said he is very disappointed by this cancellation from Nebraska. And this feels like a very lame excuse, but in a statement, Nebraska AD Troy Dannon explained that the renovations to their stadium, which will temporarily lower seating capacity, ultimately led to the decision. What does that have to do with the decision?
No, I don't believe that for a minute. By the way, Oklahoma State, Kansas tomorrow in Lawrence, Kansas. You know, what's kind of sad about it is that while we're getting great matchups in college football when the teams get into conference play, we don't get a lot of intersectional stuff that has a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah.
And Nebraska, Tennessee, which is a rematch of a Music City Bowl game several years ago, that would have been terrific. You've got two of the most loyal fan bases in the country. Nebraska's had a sellout streak that goes back to the 60s. I hate hearing that. That's bad stuff.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, maybe you don't want to play Tennessee if you're on the cusp of making the playoff. But with this discussion now that the Big Ten and the SEC might get 4 teams right out of the gate, definitively, that's not 9-3 might get you in some of those Big Ten years.
Yeah, we're going to spend some time next week on this because nationally, this is not going over well.
No.
Sankey looks like kind of a bully, kind of a spoiled, it's my ball and, I'm going to make the rules. And they don't need a 4th automatic because nature will take care of itself. A lot of years, they're going to get that 4th team. There's no reason to legislate it. Same thing in the Big Ten. Shame on both of them because they're both coming off looking like bullies.
Another football note, Bob Shoop, former Vanderbilt defensive coordinator under James Franklin, is back in Nashville. He's going to be a senior defensive analyst under Clark Lee. That's a good piece of news.
Shoop is a notorious sports talk junkie. Loved dealing with Shoop when he was here with James Franklin. That when I saw that, I was like, that's a really good move for them.
And somebody brought this up on Twitter earlier today. You got to imagine, he's getting a little bit older. He's not an old man, but maybe he's got some thoughts of living in Nashville for the remainder.
Well,
rest
I
of his
know
life.
he really liked it here, and he really, when the time came to move, he was not thrilled about it.
Yeah, he went to, of course, Penn State with James Franklin. He was the DC at Tennessee for a couple of years. And I think that's a good hire for, I wonder.
He loved it here. He's a big hockey fan.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing him.
And I remember, his kids went to Father Ryan, both of them. And I'm sure they're glad to be coming back to Nashville. So I did have one more note that I forgot about, and it is the Saints. They are hiring former Chargers coach Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator.
Staley, I'm guessing, will get another head coaching job someday, but he needs to really learn from the experience, because I thought as the head coach of the Chargers, he kind of went a little overboard with the whole analytics, and we're always going for it on fourth down. It didn't work out all that well for him.
No, that's what I got.
Okay. After the break, our buddy and former University of Tennessee basketball star Mark Griffin will join us. We got a lot of things to talk to him about. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning is Tennessee at Texas A&M. And if you're looking for style points, this is probably not your game. This is going to be a rock fight between two teams that really get after it on the defensive end. We'll talk with Mark when we come back. Normally, I'd tell you this is 94.9 The Fan. However, today, it's just us. Stay tuned.
New year, new priorities. Family and safety come first. If a car or truck accident disrupts your life, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, experienced, and ready to fight for you. Call 615-242-9000. Happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Okay, we're back from the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue, where it feels like a heat wave. It's 35 degrees, and that's kind of nice compared to what we've been dealing with. We say hello to our buddy and former University of Tennessee basketball star, Mark Griffin, who joins us for his weekly Friday visit. Mark, how you doing?
Great, George. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
So I classified it as a rock fight tomorrow, A&M in Tennessee. Do you see it any differently than that?
No, a rock fight with lots of offensive rebounds, lots of bad shots. I mean, you look at this Texas A&M team. I know we'll dive into it. I did already. For a team that's ranked number 7 in the country, George and Billy, they've got to be the worst statistical team that I've looked up that has such a high ranking. Just let me give you a quick example. Speaking of stones, field goal percent. A&M is 313th in the nation in field goal percentage, George. 313.
Wow.
Now, they're 313 in three-point field goal percentage. Now, here's where they benefit. They lead the nation in offensive rebounds. Well, you can see why, because they shoot so badly. So that's how we'll at least start off this segment. Now, one thing to their credit, they've lost one home game, 14-1. So that's something to hang on to. But it's not going to be the prettiest of games, George. I can tell you that right now.
No, this is not going to be Missouri and Alabama.
Buzz Williams Classic.
No, I like that. Now, one thing they do have is a superstar in Wade Taylor.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy. It seems like he's been there 8 years. And let's talk a little bit more about offensive woes. He's shooting fourth in the SEC in free throw percentage. I believe 87.5%. Did you know that as a team, Texas A&M is 68%? They're almost around that 300 range as well in free throw percent. So I don't know what's going on in College Station with those baskets, but if I'm Tennessee, I'm swarming. I'm telling Meshack, you don't have to score a point. You're the shadow to Wade Taylor wherever he goes. And if Anderson Garcia or their other big guy, Henry Coleman, gets on those offensive rebounds, I'm hack-a-shacking. I'm putting them the free throw line. I mean, that's just my outside strategy, guys. But if it's going to be an ugly game, let's make it uglier and put them at the free throw line minus Wade Taylor.
Mark, isn't the other thing that for sure in conference play, they play a bunch of 1 and 2 possession games, and yet in spite of kind of a razor's edge that they sit on, either Buzz Williams is doing a hell of a job or their defense is, because they're winning a bunch of those close games.
Yeah. Well, they're a tough team. I mean, they mirror their tough-minded coach. I mean, one thing about Buzz Williams, from people that I know who know him, is he's a pretty hard-nosed person, and he drills into them the tenacity that what it takes to win playing sharp defense, aka Tennessee style. Won a lot of ugly games, but from where they are right now, looking at a team so bad statistically, what does that matter when they're in the middle of an SEC race now? And this game tomorrow is a battle, George, for a SEC opening night off, with Texas A&M being slotted right now at a third spot, and Tennessee right there with them, as well as Missouri, and Ole Miss is in the picture as well, one game off. So that's how big this game is. I hate to look ahead to just the SEC tournament, but that's what you look to. And when you go on the road for Tennessee fans, you've got to take advantage of these type games. And it would be definitely a huge win for the Tennessee faithful to go into College Station and beat this Texas A&M squad.
Okay, Mark, what Billy is showing right now in a graphic is, as of this moment, how this would all play out. However, we got to flip-flop 2 of them here in a minute. On Wednesday, Mississippi State and South Carolina at the moment would play the first game on Wednesday at noon, with the winner to get Kentucky, which would very much please the downtown bar owners to get Kentucky people out on the streets by about 2:30, boozing it up and inflating Nashville's economy.
No doubt.
Arkansas, Georgia would be, at the moment, the 2:30 game, with the winner of that on Thursday to play Missouri. Now, here's where the flip-flop is. Vandy, Oklahoma, at the moment, would be the 6 o'clock game on Wednesday night, with the winner to play Tennessee on Thursday. And then Texas LSU would be the 8:30 game on Wednesday, with the winner to take on the Ole Miss Hotty Toddy Rebels.
Wow.
And so you're right. Tomorrow is a big one because the winner looks a lot more like they won't have to play until Friday. And Mark, that's a huge advantage.
Oh, a huge advantage. And these guys know that. Staff knows it. Those who really follow the program knows it, not just for those that are buying tickets that may not want to attend the first night. As you know, it's a different format this year with additional teams. So as you said, 4 games the first night, which is a big difference. There'll be more than 2,000 people in the stands. And it's just big for resting their legs. And this is I'm not a firm believer in that guys really get fatigued at the end of the year the way the programs are being run now, but it sure doesn't help to have that extra day off to prepare and spend time just scouting your opponent and just being able to take in all the activities and stay focused on why you're in Nashville.
Okay, you and I may be on total opposite things here. I believe off of this SEC schedule, as brutal as it is for all of the teams, because let's face it, they're all going through 4 to 6 game streaks where it feels like they're in the NBA. Mark, I believe that you're starting to see some teams that are showing some weariness.
Yeah, and it's a concern. I look, one team pops up is Oklahoma on the outside now, I think. I'm a little concerned, and this is great opportunity for Vanderbilt. Was Ole Miss coming to town? Ole Miss lost a huge game to Mississippi State at home. Got ripped. And I never would have predicted that, George, especially in their backyard. But once again, SEC. But kudos to Mississippi State, a team every time I talk not as highly about, they go out and get a win. So there you go. But great opportunity for Vanderbilt with Ole Miss. And I think Vandy really matches up well with Vanderbilt, George. I really like Vanderbilt tomorrow with this matchup, especially with the way that Carey has been playing. Now, they obviously have other assets to go to, but if you get steady play by Carey and McLaughlin gives you anything, which he normally gives you at least 8 rebounds a game, you've got a chance to be in that game. And when you're, in Memorial and you're close, I think things are going to look really good for Vanderbilt against Ole Miss. That's my thoughts.
It's a must win for Vandy, but let's go back to A&M Tennessee for just a second, because you have sort of put the impactful player thing on an A&M kid. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, my impact player is Zurich Phelps. I don't know if we have a visual or not, but I picked the most impactful transfer each week of an opponent that Tennessee's playing, because what's really neat about this, I think, guys, is you give a guy another opportunity to step up. Maybe things didn't go well in their previous school. Maybe things did go well and they just needed a new start. With Zurich Phelps, not very familiar with him before a long time ago, but I've been following him because what I've really been focusing on, guys, is team's second and third option in scoring. You mentioned A&M. Obviously, you're going to mention Wade Taylor. But if Wade Taylor's bottled up, who do they go to? Well, right now it's been Zurich Phelps. And he's a transfer from SMU. You can see his statistics there, 15 points per game. One thing that I've noticed about this individual is his statistics, once again, don't really stand out. He's sub 40% field goal shooter, sub 30% 3-point shooter. But what he seems to really do a great job of, guys, is he gets buckets. He's that guy that's around the basket. He's the guy that when they're guarding Wade Taylor and they kick to Phelps, he's able to dribble drive and take a nice 14 to 16 foot jump shot, averages over 5 rebounds a game. So he's very steady, a keen defensive player. It's 2 steals a game, one of the SEC leaders. So he's just a great all-around player that fits in really well for Buzz Williams' style. and someone that I'll really be focusing on tomorrow to see how Tennessee plays against him.
Okay, Mark, let's talk a little Tennessee for a minute. They have, and I think the timing of this for them is beautiful, to have the Tuesday or Wednesday night off. And so it's Saturday to Saturday. They'll have fresh legs tomorrow, which you need when you're playing A&M. Here's where I want to go. There's a real positive to the comeback against Vandy, and to me, there's a real negative. Let's start with the positive. Okay, Barnes goes off at halftime, really lights into them, and they play a half of basketball that was dominating. 72% from the field, so that there is an ability to turn it on that's unlike most teams in the country.
Yeah, and that's why I think most of the pundits still really like Tennessee advancing. You know, you and I have talked. I'm still not 100% sold, but at the same time, when I was at that Vanderbilt game, and when they came out in the second half and they were knocking down shots and playing great, not only defensively, but it also, you know, carried over on the offensive end. I'm like, wow, this team can turn it on, like you said. And that's really the make of a great basketball team, when you can make adjustments. You just don't want to be in the situation, guys, where you're always having to make extreme adjustments when you are shooting so badly. If Tennessee can play like they did against Vanderbilt throughout the rest of the season, this last game, then they're going to be in great shape, because it does go to show it's a 40-minute game. A lot of people in Knoxville were really concerned. A lot of the fans that I spoke to at halftime were like, you know, how are they going to come out and play? You know, this is a typical Tennessee offensive team. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we're being too hard on them, because when you hit big shots in critical moments, then you've got that mental edge. And I really think that Tennessee right now, if they can keep this mental edge moving forward, guys, they're going to be in good shape, especially being steady on the defensive end, which they've proven pretty much every game -2. Then you've got a shot. Because if you can defend, if you can just shoot and at least in the 40% range, then you're going to be in the game.
Well, and it feels like Lanier is just kind of hiding in the weeds. He's not, he's not a superstar like we've talked about, but he's hit some big shots. He's starting to drive and get into the lane more, which Barnes has talked about him needing to do. Mark, that makes Tennessee a scary team if Lanier really starts to step into who he can be. But it just feels like he's kind of been laying in the weeds. He's had some struggles, but now he's being more steady, and man, they've needed that.
And what's really been neat watching him throughout the season, I'm a big body language guy. You never see him lower his shoulders or his head, never seems frustrated, hit or miss. He keeps shooting. I wish he would shoot more, but that's not the way this team is built. I think that obviously Coach Barnes is smart enough to know he can run specialty plays to the near based on matchup issues. He's fantastic at doing that, and I'm sure we'll add additional ones towards the end of the season. Because one thing you guys may or may not know, maybe your listeners know this or don't, it's really neat because when you get to this time of the season, you think, oh, these teams are scout proof. Well, they're really not, guys, because I can remember even playing at UT that Coach DeVoe would add certain wrinkles in plays at the end of the season. It may be an inbounds play. It may be a shot, a play with a shot clock, less than 10 seconds. But coaches save these type of plays for the end of the season, so they're not scout proof. So what are these coaches going to draw up this time around of the season that may put a team over the hump or win a game, when it's a close margin? We'll have to see.
Mark, let's go to the other side of this for a minute. You know as well as I do, Barnes has his critics. They point out that, in March he hasn't, been as good as they feel like he should have been, that blah, blah, blah. And at times when I hear that, I'm like, do you remember what it was like before Barnes got there and before Bruce Pearl got there? Be careful what you're complaining about. But Mark, on the other hand, there is this theory that's out there that he's too hard on him, and that toward the end of the season, stuff starts to slack a little bit. I honestly believed going into Saturday that Tennessee would be wildly excited to play Vandy, given what happened here. And instead, they kind of were in zombie land and kind of sleptwalked through the first half.
Yeah.
Should that concern a Tennessee fan?
I don't see it, George, maybe as much as others, because I think players want to be coached hard. I really think that they want to be disciplined to improve. Now, there's a fine line there, obviously, and we could bring up some former Vanderbilt coaches that may come to mind that were hard on their players, and guys were ready for the season to be over. I experienced that myself, guys.
Sure.
Where in March, you're like, man, when are we going to Fort Lauderdale? When's the NIT over? I mean, I hate to admit it, but you are so worn out and beaten up, but yet you will never tell the media that you are tired and worn out. But it was because practices at that time were run so much harder. And I'm not saying that guys don't practice hard now and kids are different. I think great players want to be coached, period. They want to be disciplined. And Barnes is going to do that. It's not old school, new school. I just think it's the position that these coaches are in, that you want to get the best out of each individual. The best out of Jordan Gainey may not be the same level as the best out of Sakai, but you want to bring out the best in each individual for the sake of the team. And that's what development is called, and he's been great at that. There's other coaches that have been great at that. I think it's going to continue. I don't think that they're going to be any worse position. If anything, when you're exposed to all these different situations in games, good or bad, maybe a tough loss, a blowout at Florida, a comeback against Vanderbilt, 20-point comeback against Georgia at home stands out. Then when you are in that position on the floor, and I can tell you this personally, you do sit there and have a flashback. You try not to, George, but you flash back and go, I've seen this. I've witnessed this. I know how to come out of this. And you're literally talking to yourself because you've seen it all. What concerns me more is a team that's never had a close game. And I'm not picking on Auburn because, they've had some close games here lately, but a bigger concern is when you've not gone through that tough experience. And even if you came in on the right side, it's just experience does help. And I think that's going to help pull some of these teams through that are tough mentally. And you can see that on the court, which teams are tougher mentally than others. And it's just going to be fun to watch. Even this weekend, great matchups.
Mark, I don't know that I always bought that theory, but right after you finished playing at Tennessee, UNLV had a team that was about to try to go for a second national title in a row.
Sure.
A year before, they had ripped Duke in the final by about 30.
Yeah.
And in year two, they really never were challenged at all until the rematch against Duke. And at the 5-minute mark, when it was razor's edge, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I changed my tune
Great example
about that because of that team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you see it now, even in preparation, where teams are even scheduled now. There's more neutral games being scheduled. Why? Because you're going to locations where they're tournament-like environments. Let's say Tennessee's playing in, I'll pick on Tennessee because that's the team I follow the most, but we can pick on any SEC school and others playing in Madison Square Garden. That looks good because you're playing in a pro environment. It's not, playing in some pillbox and Southwest, whatever state. So you get that exposure, the experience of staying in a bigger city, how it is to be around your teammates when you're on the road, and the bonding. A lot goes into mental preparation, even more than the physical that we really harp on so much when we're critical of teams. But the mental part plays, I feel, even more for these guys. I mean, you look at a Zakai Ziegler, for example, probably one of the most mentally tough players in the country. And that's just one. We could pick a player from each team, like Elijah Martin from Florida. I mean, this kid, NIL money, Florida alums need to be sending this guy a fat check because I'm not going to say he single-handedly turned them around, but he single-handedly has turned them around for the most part because he's tough. He's mentally strong. He was at FAU when they had their success with the Final Four run. He's probably never highly recruited. And the guy just plays hard, and they're reaping the benefits, and they're so much better defensively now, Florida is, than they were in the past. And great for the coaching staff to land him. But that's a great example of what a transfer can do for a program.
You mentioned the neutral games, Mark. I know we need to hit a break, but Illinois and Duke are playing at Madison Square Garden tomorrow night. A very random, out-of-the-blue game, but it simulates an NCAA tournament game. Organizers with Madison Square Garden were eager to make it happen, and I don't know, but this doesn't usually happen mid-season, in the middle of conference play.
No,
so
this is really rare.
Yeah. And that's a good example of what you're
great for the coaches to accept this, and I'm not saying that they're told to do this by the administration. I don't know. But, coaches have a lot of pull within their own likes as well. Some coaches don't like to step out of that ritual of playing outside now, the SEC, ACC challenge, which, all this is still newer. A lot of your coaches that have been in the business for years, they just want to stick to, let's just play our conference schedule. We want to go home and we want to go away, but we're not wandering to New York. And now that you see this more, I'm glad to see it. It's really great for the fans too.
Billy, go back to that story that you were looking at and go up a little bit because I think they talk about the fact Gonzaga and Kentucky, I believe I'm right, are going to play a neutral site game at Bridgestone a year from now.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Anyway, I know we need to go to a break. Couple of things. Number one, if you've got a question or a comment for Mark, no phones today because clearly we're not on radio, and so you're having to look at me. My apologies. Billy, how do they do that?
Chat room is open on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook as well. YouTube, it's right there on the screen to the right of it. That's how you type it in. And then also Twitter and Facebook. You can just swipe right up. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, we'll go to the break, and then Billy will take over with Mark Griffin Friday afternoon. It's a heat wave. It's 35 degrees. Inside here, quite a bit nicer. Stay tuned. This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks, and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
As we step into the new year, there's nothing more important than family and safety. If a car wreck or big truck accident turns your world upside down, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, we're experienced, and we're ready to fight for what you deserve. Call us anytime at 615-242-9000. Really wishing you a safe and happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Okay, we're back. Not on radio today. We're preempted for a Vanderbilt baseball game. Billy, is it St. Mary's?
Yep. Vandy leads 6-3 over St. Mary's in the 5th inning.
Wow.
This is probably a heat wave compared to what they have played in
I
the
played
last few days.
playing baseball in high school. The January and February practices and scrimmages were
Miserable.
the worst.
Miserable.
But
Okay.
Mark,
Take your time.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time. I see we've got one question by way. So anyway, because of that, we're not on radio, not able to take phone calls, but I would appreciate 2 or 3 more of you jumping in with a college basketball question or a comment for Mark that we will do a few minutes after the top of the hour.
Mark, Vandy has lost 5 out of 6. But if I would have asked you, and we talked about this before this stretch, if I would have asked you, hey, how does Vandy do in this stretch? A lot of people would say 1-5, and that's what happened. They beat Texas at home, and they lost every other game. The Tennessee game was close, like we were talking about. It wasn't close at Rupp Arena. That was an ugly second half. But Mark, their second halves on the road have been awful in the SEC. They look like a totally different team. I told this to somebody the other day. It feels like they jump on teams. They get a lot of early steals in the first half. They get out in transition. They play well in first halves, but their limitations catch up to them in the second half, especially on the road. Maybe not much at home. But are you with me on that about this Vandy team?
Well, it makes sense, Billy. I mean, you're right. They have jumped out early and haven't been able to hold that lead. Why is that? I mean, you can hypothesize why, as far as how come they don't maintain a lead. I know, for me, first off, being in Knoxville, it's just not. And I would never say that Vanderbilt was being lackadaisical, but that first 4 minutes in the second half, we were always taught are the most important minutes in a game. And I'm sure Vanderbilt coaching staff preach that like every coaching staff, but the players have got to execute it. And once again, I went back to the mental mindset. Having lost as many games recently as Vanderbilt has and forfeiting a significant lead, that stays with you as well. When you're in halftime making adjustments, it goes through your mind, let's not be like the last game. Let's make it different this game. But it does go through your head. What Vanderbilt needs, and it's easily fixable, is a little momentum. And no better way than Ole Miss coming to town. Once again, I mentioned a great matchup for Vanderbilt. I really do believe that. if they can start off that second half, and I will be watching those first 4 minutes, and if they can if they're ahead, let's say by 6, and they can stay at that same margin, I'll feel really better about this team moving forward for the remaining part of the game. But if, let's say, they have a 6-point lead and it's now tied, I'm going to feel a little bit worse about how the results are going to be towards the end of the game based on how they come out in that second half.
Yeah, Ole Miss, they don't have a 7-footer. They don't have an Akpara or, they don't have a big post guy that you're scared of. Malik Dia can do a little bit, but he's 6'8". He likes to step out and shoot.
Yeah.
But Chris Beard, he's a little bit Buzz Williams style, a little Rick Barnes style, would choke the life out of the game. With them, how do you look at them right now? Because they lost both times to Mississippi State, and it wasn't necessarily very competitive either. How do you look at this Ole Miss team right now, especially going into Vandy tomorrow night, where they need it? They're coming off a loss.
Well, Chris Beard's known as a defensive coach, but the team he has right now is not the team that I feel will be one of his better teams. Now, and Ole Miss has had a great season, and don't get me wrong, but there's some obvious weaknesses, I think, with Ole Miss, especially, I think, inside defensively. I think if you can attack Ole Miss inside defensively and get them in foul trouble, then they're in trouble. With Dia being one of their bigger inside presences, he's prone to get into foul trouble. I don't think he has the greatest motor in the world. If you watch him play, now when he turns it on, but that switches off sometimes too. And I've witnessed that. Watch and see how aggressive he gets down the court tomorrow. Now, great for him coming back home and playing, in his hometown. I think that's fantastic. Who I'm going to be looking for is the transfer from Duke, Jalen Brakefield, and I'm gonna really watch that matchup to see how he plays against Vanderbilt and what they allow him to do to create opportunity, and if Vanderbilt bigs can contain him. Now he's plays a 4-man. I think he's around 6'7", but he's mainly a driver. So would he be someone that a 3-man would guard for Vanderbilt? Can you put a 4 on him? Would he be too quick for carry? That's going to be a mismatch concern, I think, that Vanderbilt's going to have to deal with. But I just think if Vandy really works the ball on the inside, I think if not to limit their guards from shooting, but this is a game where I'm saying, guys, we're going to the free throw line. We're going to work that ball inside, and we're going to get them in foul trouble, and then we're going to pop it out for 3-pointers when we're on our break, but we're going to pound the rock inside. I think you have success if you do that, and we'll see if that works out for Vanderbilt tomorrow.
All right, let's go nationally. The nothing but net surprise team is Wisconsin. Greg Gard has this team rolling right now, 11th in the net. Mark, how about the Badgers?
Well, it may be obvious to a lot of the fans that really follow sports nationally, but when I think of Wisconsin, I don't know about you guys. First thing, I don't think about powerhouse basketball, and they had a lot of losses this last season with transfer guys. Kid went to Louisville, another went to Kansas. And for Gard to pick up, especially the pickup of a kid, John Tange, which I will say, I didn't know a lot about him, but I've been watching a lot of Big Ten basketball here lately. He lit up Arizona for 41 points. Now, he's a transfer. He's like on the John Fulkerson plan. This is his 6th year, but he had a medical red shirt. He started off at Colorado State and then went to Missouri, played 8 games, had an injury and sat out, and sat out a long season last year, mind you, with Missouri, and then transferred over to Wisconsin. And what really impresses me about Wisconsin, they're the number 1 free throw shooting team in the nation. It's not even close. I mean, they're over. I don't know the exact number, guys, but I think they're 83%. just to put that in perspective, the SEC leader is Oklahoma, and they're at 79. Tennessee's at 74. So when you're shooting 83% from the free throw line as a team, then they can afford to slow the ball down if they need to, because they're going to feel very confident going to the free throw line. And they've got a favorable schedule coming up. They have 5 games remaining, and they're only up against one top 25 opponent. I think it's at Michigan State first weekend of March. So there's a really good chance if they could beat Oregon this weekend to at least go 4-1, which will give them a great seeding, as high as maybe a 2 seed. This is another team to look out for. You know, we mentioned last week Illinois. That was a team that I mentioned to be on the lookout for Final Four. And what happened? Wisconsin beats them by 19. So once again, I'm glad I don't make a living saying who's going to win or not. But that's, once again, it's a great thing about college sports, especially college basketball, is you just don't know day in and day out. But Greg, a little personal information about Greg Gard here, the head coach. One thing that's been really neat following him is he grew up in Wisconsin, was born in Wisconsin, never left the state as far as coaching. How rare is that for a college coach, Division I college coach, never to leave your state? He started out as an assistant coach in high school, transferred to be an assistant at another high school, and then moved up to be an assistant. And then, if you guys remember, I know George will remember, when Bo Ryan retired, he took over as a head coach with no head coaching experience in 2015. Has been to 2 Sweet 16s with Wisconsin early in his career. So this is a great opportunity for him to have the Wisconsin faithful back on his side, because it's been a few years since they've advanced, and it looks like they've got the team to do that this season.
Mark, when I saw Purdue in Wisconsin last Saturday at Mackey Arena, and Wisconsin totally dominated the second half, that stunned me. I didn't know that Wisconsin could get to that level.
No.
You went at Mackey Arena, you beat Purdue at their place. Yeah. You're pretty damn good.
Yeah, you've done something. You really have done something. And you're right. I mean, kudos to him. And this is what people badmouth transfer portal more than they like it. I try to look at it like the glass is half full. For someone like Tanjay, that could have finished his career injured at Missouri, went to the tournament with Colorado State 1 year, and then to turn around, he's going to be first team all Big Ten Conference and may have a future in the pros somewhere. He's got a great build. He's like 6'5", 220. I mean, this is what I think is a great example of why the transfer portal is a good thing for these kids. Is it just gives them another opportunity to succeed in a new environment for whatever reason. Not every kid that transfers disgruntled. Some of these transfers that you won't hear about are just not asked to come back. I can give you numerous examples. They're just not asked to come back.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, coaches leave. You've got other coaches that recruited these kids as assistants with other programs, and they move into a new program, and they're calling your mom or your uncle or.
You lost Mark.
Now he's unfrozen.
He's freezing up on
maybe he's frozen again.
But what I want to get to – Mark, we lost you there towards the end of that.
Did he fall asleep?
Nah, well, it went dark. I was like, what's going on?
I know it. Isn't technology a great thing?
Did you pay your bill, George?
It's questionable.
Mark, we've got a couple chat ones I want to get to those. I got one more, though. I asked this to
We'll do that, by the way, after the break.
Okay. I asked this yesterday to Ron Bargatze, Lee Fowler, and I want to ask you, I'm worried about Auburn a little bit. a little bit. They're still the best team in the country. They're going to be the number 1 seed, overall seed, most likely. But if Chad Baker-Mazara doesn't clean his act up, he's going to cause them to lose another game, and especially a game in March. You just can't do some of the things he does. And a lot of their team talks. Now, it's not a bad thing to talk. Everybody talks trash. But they talk to a degree where referees see that, and you're not going to get every call, and some things won't go your way. And so are you worried about them too? And they're mentally tough, though. They can talk a lot because they're so good. But I just worry.
I'm not worried about Auburn in that sense. I think Dylan Caldwell, for one, is a big talker. But I think I watched the bench. I saw Broom come over there and have words with them. Now, did he pay attention to him? No. They'll settle that at practice. And Coach Pearl gives them a lot of latitude because he's very flamboyant himself. They're going to speak to him, and they've already spoken to him for sure about being a disruptor, and you can't have that. I think the emotions just got a hold of him. It happens. I don't hold that against Auburn or him at all. Matter of fact, speaking of Auburn, here's one for you. If they're the number 1 seed and they come out of the South, guess where they're going to be playing Sweet 16?
Atlanta.
Second round in Sweet 16.
The home of the free and the Braves.
Exactly. Atlanta.
Well, you wonder.
120. I think it's 120 miles from Atlanta to Auburn. No one's talking about this. First round, maybe they play in Lexington.
Yep.
But then they're going to be in Atlanta. Another reason why I've got them going the Final Four is because they're going to have that fan base right there with them. And they're going to be close to home, which is it a big deal to jump on a plane and fly to Sacramento? No. Is it inconvenient? It's not the most convenient. I'd rather jump on a bus and drive 120 miles than head out to, the West and sit and then try to adjust on Pacific time. And then the whole sleeping arrangement with the time change. Now, some people say that's not a big deal. Well, Robert Parrish from the Boston Celtics, let's bring him up. If you recall, always stayed on the same time zone throughout his career when he traveled. And guess what? Robert had a fantastic long career. And that's just one example. But going back to Auburn, they've got a great opportunity to be playing in Atlanta for a little bit, which is another reason to like them. And they'll give that kid a hard time. Believe me, they're going to rub it in on him. They'll laugh it out, and they're going to say no more. Now, if he continues this, though, I agree. If you see this again, then there's an issue.
Man, Auburn is they're one of those teams. They're so good, and they talk so much, and they do so much extra stuff, but you can do all you want about it. They're going to beat you most times too.
Yeah.
So it's
contagious.
Yeah.
But it's contagious. And the smack talking, is that a big deal? No. AKA ask Larry Bird. Not at all. Backing it up. They're backing it up. I don't have a problem. Someone talks smack if you can back it up, especially if you can get in your opponent's head. There's a lot of that going on that's not even talked about. I don't know. It's not a directive from these networks to talk about stuff like this, but every announcer and Jay Billis of the world, when they're at these games, they're hearing it. They're just not talking about players talking smack. It's a part of the game. You just do it.
One of the best ones I ever saw. When you're at courtside, you can hear it all, even if you've got these boom mics on. And there was a game down in Gainesville, and help me, Jason Williams, who got the nickname White Chocolate.
Sure.
He and Drew Maddox, from the minute that game started, and it was special.
Yeah.
That's not the only one, though. There are some classic
Well, and if you're at games,
coaching deals,
you see
too.
it as opposed to watching on TV. I mean, you see all of it.
Yeah.
Sure. But when you're courtside, when you're 2 feet away, you hear some stuff
Yeah.
that you can't believe.
I mean, the classic every block shot, and fans picked up on this one, is get that out of here. I mean, that goes back to, when Naismith, created the game. I really do believe that. So that's one that's just accepted. And when someone gets their shot blocked and you hear that, you don't even think twice. You're like, all right, fine. I'm still going to score on you. Talk smack all you want, run down the court. But there's a lot of creative ones. It's really interesting to go into that topic. So some of them are really funny.
One of the best ones, Billy, you'll like this. We were playing. It was when I was Vandy's color announcer in the 80s. We're playing in the Superdome in the Sugar Bowl basketball tournament. Here's this 75,000 seat arena, and there's nobody there.
We played in it too. Yeah.
Oh, there's nobody there.
Terrible.
We have lost on Sunday night, and now we're playing a game on Monday against an okay Houston team. But we're down late by 5 or 6 points, and we've gone full court press. And the officials miss a 10 count where Vandy would have gotten the ball back. Coach Newton, who had been 2 years earlier these officials' bosses as supervisor of officials, says to Ben Dunn, Ben, you missed a 10 count. And Ben said to him, Coach, I only counted to 9. And Coach Newton said, that's because you're a horse counter. And even Ben Dunn started laughing.
Wow.
I was like, oh, my God. I can't believe I just heard that. They're all laughing. There are situations that come up. Yeah, it's serious. But there are times where there's some humor that gets into it, in particular between coaches and officials. There was, Mark, you remember him because he worked some of your games, the late Burl Crowell.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Burl told me a story that Norm Sloan disagreed badly with a call of his, and Sloan took the ball and slammed it way up in the air. And Burl says, if that thing ever comes down, I'm teeing you up. Loved it.
That's funny.
That's one of the beauties. Okay, we need to go to a break. When we come back, a little stat of the day. Still would like a couple more questions out of the audience. Obviously, we're not on radio today. So, Billy, tell them one more way that they can reach us.
Chat room still open. We got a couple, need a few more on YouTube. You can do it on Twitter. You can do it as well, and in Facebook also. So we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, we're back with more in just a moment.
New year, new priorities. Family and safety come first. If a car or truck accident disrupts your life, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, experienced, and ready to fight for you. Call 615-242-9000. Happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
Where can you see a saber-toothed tiger rappel from the rafters? How about a catfish fly? The biggest stars in Music City. Not to mention hockey's hottest ticket.
The Predators win!
Only in Smashville. See your Nashville Predators all season long at Bridgestone Arena. Single game tickets are on sale now at NashvillePredators.com. Let's go, Preds!
This is the most anticipated March Madness that we have had in a long time. There's going to be some great basketball, and the George Plaster Show has it all covered. Whether we take our show to your business or you simply endorse things like March Madness scoreboard updates or other features, we've got it all covered. If you want to be part of a big March Madness, simply email me, plastergeorge@gmail.com. We can fit all of your needs, and we'll find out what your budget will allow.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
We're back on a Friday, big weekend of SEC and national college basketball. We'll talk a little bit more about it with Mark Griffin coming up. But first, stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to applecollisioncenters.com. All right, here we go. We're going college basketball. Cooper Flagg is dominating the college basketball world and seems to be the first freshman ever to win National Player of the Year, unless it goes to Janai Broome. Who was the last freshman to win this award?
Ooh.
Wait, hold on. Seems to be the first freshman to win Player of the Year. Who was the last freshman? So he's not the first?
Good one. You write that up?
Oh, wow.
I would say no one.
I don't think that's true, though.
Yeah, it's probably a little typo.
Have there not been some freshmen that have won it, Mark?
God, I'm the worst when it comes to history and players and what they've done. I'm good at numbers, but I'm not good at players. So I quote you some stats now.
Yeah, there's some freshmen.
So is it fairly recent?
Also, how about was Danny Ferry? I'll throw one out from old days. Danny Ferry.
Well, I'll tell you a name I thought about was Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
It is. It's very fairly recent, actually.
Fairly recent. Ooh.
How about was it Brandon Miller?
It was not Brandon Miller.
All right.
Go ahead and show it to us. We could be here a while.
Yeah, this is tough. It's Zion Williams.
Yeah, we should have gotten that.
In 2019. Kevin Durant,
who
won it in 2007. Too.
Yeah. The Zion, you talk about an enigma, Mark. Yeah. It just hadn't happened on the
No. Unbelievable. It's unfortunate. I hate to get on the Zion bandwagon here, but you talk about putting people around you. I'd have a dietitian as his shadow. You just have to have the discipline and people around you to put you in a position to maximize every opportunity you have. And you just don't see it. And it's a shame. I saw him, little Zion story, coaching travel basketball, EAB, several years ago. I'll never forget. We're playing in, maybe it was Atlanta. And we're really excited that we're thinking a lot of coaches were going to come watch several of our kids. And then we find out Zion's playing the same time. And of course, it was like three-team race, if it wasn't already settled beforehand. Depends on who you speak with. But I guarantee you there were 100 coaches watching that game. 100.
Wow.
And 97 of them didn't need to be there at all. But they all would sit there and smile and act like they loved their colleagues, which was really fun to watch, guys. And they all watched Zion play. And, of course, he put on a show. The talent level has always been there. It's crazy how good he was and is if he would just really what I call love the game.
Get himself in shape.
Yeah. And if you love the game, or as a friend of mine said, you like the game, you love the game, or you live the game. And most pros live the game because it's their life. But there's some that don't live the game. And I don't know Zion, but from what I've witnessed, I don't think he lives the game. But if he did, he would push himself away from the training table and do what you got to do to make his pro team a winner, period.
This has been a tough thing for the New Orleans franchise.
Oh, okay. Terrible.
Mark, let me ask you this. I've asked everybody we've had on this question. Tuesday night, when Kansas got obliterated at BYU,
Gosh.
Sean Farnham did a really good job of detailing the lack of effort on Kansas's end. How they just were nowhere really to be found, and BYU had wide open threes. Did you see it?
I watched most of it, George. I wanted to watch it because I actually like Bill Self. It's funny. I never the times I've watched him, the press conferences, when I've seen him at travel games, I've always been impressed with him. His personality. I don't think he's a me guy as much as most of the coaches are. But I hate to see what they're going through right now. But boy, it's a bad tailspin though, isn't it?
Yeah. They are, as of today, a 7 seed. They have free fall.
Wow.
Okay, Billy, let's get a couple of questions and then we'll let Mark get out of here.
Stormy, which SEC underdog will make a run in the SEC tournament and then in the NCAA tournament?
Wow, Stormy. George, you want to go first on this one? Or is this for me?
You know what? For me, it's Mississippi State. I don't get what's going on there because they don't play to the same level or anywhere close to the same level night in and night out. They're one team that for a good 30 minutes of the game here pretty much obliterated Vandy. They had them down almost 20 at one point here. Yeah. They have a lot of talent. Yeah. I watched them dismantle Ole Miss Saturday. Yeah. And in Oxford, I was shocked by the level of it. State just seems to me to play to whatever level they feel like they need to play.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
I love the kid, and I'm going to forget his last name. Cam. What's the big
Cam
kid's
Matthews.
Oh,
he's a freak.
He's probably one of my favorite SEC players this year. And that's just based on effort, attitude. I don't know what his statistics are. I don't know where he's from. Don't know what year he is. But I love the effort. And he's a role. When you use the term role player, people think that's negative. A lot of people do. And when I look at him, I'm like, he has a great role, which is a positive influence on his teammates because he'll do whatever he's got to do for them to win. Now, we can't consider Missouri an underdog these days, can we? So,
apparently not. Not the way they dismantled Alabama.
And guys, I'm still blown away by Missouri. And man, I'm still going to go Missouri for the SEC, even though I hate to call them an underdog, but they're either going to be a 4 seed in the tournament or a 5 or 6 more than likely, but that still puts 3 or 4 or 5 teams in front of them. Dennis Gates, man, how he does it, the preparation, because he's definitely not a me guy. You watch him on the sidelines, you wonder if he's got a pulse. And it's interesting because people will sit there and judge these coaches on you've got to be Pearl-esque and be all over the place, and or your favorite, George, Tom Crean, and walk up and down the sideline 5 miles to be seen, which drove me nuts.
Now it's Patino doing it.
And now Patino, so it's just like limelight on me, hello. And then you look at him and what he's getting these guys to do. Well, if you look back, I mean, Krzyzewski was not a screamer during the games for the most part. It was the preparation going into the game. And then when you play the game, you play the game. And I actually like coaches that will let your players play. And yes, you coach them, but I'm just going to tell you guys, this is just from most of the guys I've ever talked to and the guys you've talked to, George and Billy, how much when you're running down the court and the coach is yelling at you, how much you're really paying attention and going, oh, coach, you're exactly right. I'm going to do what you said, or you're going, that guy's just full of crap right now. I'm trying to get my minutes. I'm trying to help this team, and the guy's making me look bad. And then you suck it up, say the right things for the media.
You want to flip him off.
What's that?
Said you want to flip him off.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be called out, and no one wants to be called out. Think about your work profession. I mean, you want constructive criticism, but if you read the book 1 Minute Manager, you want a positive and then an area of improvement, then you finish on a positive. But a lot of these coaches don't know what that positive is because they're all about themselves.
Kelly has not read that book.
He's not. Well, maybe you should get it for him. But it's actually a must read. And George, it's an easy read. So even Billy could read it. So
okay.
I was going to say you, George, but I don't know if you're a voracious reader.
Not there, yeah.
But so Billy, I'm just teasing you. But I go back to Gates because how badly they were last year. I mean, to not win a conference game and to play the way they are now just really goes to show it. You go into that transfer portal and pull some guys like Mark Mitchell, the 3-point shooter,
Caleb Grill,
I meant, yeah, but Grill. And then you get the kid from UT Martin, 15 minutes from my hometown, Cruz. This kid would play a ton with other programs, and I love how hard he plays. And just you got guys that are just the effort, and effort equals success for the most part. And I'm just really excited for him. So I'm going to long-winded answer. I'm going to be cheering for Missouri if it's not Tennessee.
Keep an eye on Arkansas. I have a feeling they'll make a run in Nashville and really push for the tournament because they'll be
it's too late.
They'll be one of the more motivated teams. They're freakishly athletic.
What are they right now in the SEC? Are they not like 4-9?
Yeah, they are actually.
Yep.
To me, that's getting really close to too late.
Well, look, Oklahoma's 3-10, and they're first.
They're not going to make it
out. So,
well, you know what? I mean, it's funny y'all mention this, and I actually prepped for this. Lenardi, I think, still has 12 teams. Everybody was saying 14 and 13, and now it's down to 12. And I'm going to stick to what I always said 11. Now, I'm just stubborn, so maybe I'm going to be wrong. But if you've got a second, and I think we probably only have a second, if you look at the three teams that are borderline not making it, the Texas, Arkansas, and Vandy squad, of those three teams, which one doesn't survive? What do y'all think?
To me, it's either Vandy or Arkansas. It's like that game here in a week and a half or so is really important.
Could well be an elimination game.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Arkansas plays both. They play Texas, and they also play at Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt's got the hardest road ahead according to top 25 teams. The 5 games remaining, Vanderbilt's got 3. Arkansas 2, Texas 1. Now I'm not looking at the road versus home scenarios. I'm just looking at top 25. But I just, out of those 3 teams, what I'm really going to be looking at, and I hope that Vanderbilt's on that north side and they're, they do make it, but they've got the toughest road right now. That's why, guys, this Ole Miss, if you're anywhere in Middle Tennessee and you're enjoying this 35-degree weather that meteorologist George Plaster has been talking about, you need to get down to Memorial tomorrow. Go eat brunch somewhere and come to Memorial, buy you a ticket, and go inside and experience that because those guys are really going to need it. And I know they would love to have people in the stands because I really think that's going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think that actually favors Vanderbilt. But I wish that I could go to the game tomorrow, but I can't. But I will be watching it on TV, and a huge game for the Vanderbilt faithful. Huge.
Last one from Justin here. Of the current projected 1 or 2 seeds, which one is most likely to get beat in the first round.
Let me read
Yeah.
where Lenardi has it as of this morning. His 1 seeds are Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Duke. His 2 seeds are Tennessee, Wisconsin, Iowa State, and Houston. I would say Iowa State.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning. Now, a lot of people would pick Iowa State because they haven't seen them. I've watched Iowa State more times than I should admit. But when you look at the makeup of the teams that you've mentioned, George, I go to Iowa State before I go to Houston because Houston is a great defensive team now with scorers.
Right. I don't want any part of playing Houston.
I don't want any part of Kelvin Sampson's program, period. I would rather – there's some debate on – I'd rather play Duke than I would Houston.
Interesting.
I might agree with that.
I mean, we can break that down, but and Duke's got a fantastic team, but I'll tell you why I said that too. Now, people could talk about youth and it doesn't matter anymore. Everybody's young. These guys hadn't played in the NCAA tournament. Okay, they played in the state tournament. They may have played in the Nike Peach Jam finals, but you hadn't stepped on that stage.
Totally different deal.
You hadn't stepped on that stage when everything gets a little tight. That's not usually tight outside of Cameron, if you know what I mean, George.
Yes, I do know. Okay, we're going to end it here. Mark, you've been fabulous. Thank you so much. We'll do it again next week. I'm going to work on the shift that you need, and we'll make it happen.
I'm thankful to be on here, guys. Have a great evening, and George, enjoy that sunshine while you can.
It's a heat wave.
Billy, great job with
Thanks,
the
Mark.
graphics once again. Appreciate all you do, brother.
You got it.
See you, Mark.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, after the break, Plaster Bet of the Day, which will focus on some SEC ball. Stay tuned. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Final segment here on a Friday, big weekend of college basketball. We'll see where George is going with tomorrow's picks. It's all brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law, best in the business. First, Let's take a look at what happened last night in the world of betting. And tough night. Jacksonville State did not pull it off, favored by 6. Lipscomb did get the win. That's in red, should be in green. So that played tricks with my mind. I that should have been green there. So 500 night.
Again, Lenny Acuff's team played really well last night.
Yeah.
When you try to do some weekend bets, a lot of the lines don't start trickling in until very late in the afternoon or early in the evening. So all of this got put together quick. No graphic here, but here goes. Let's start at Memorial Gym, where Vandy and Ole Miss will play tomorrow at 2:30. And let's not pull any punches. Much like 2 weeks ago when Vandy played Texas, and you knew this gauntlet of games was coming. 6 in a row that were brutal. Vandy went 1-5. It eases up a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. And first on the supposedly easier schedule is Ole Miss. You can call it what you want. To me, it's a do or die game.
Yep.
And I don't think Vandy is going to die at Memorial Gym. I think they're going to beat Ole Miss tomorrow. Ole Miss is a 1.5-point favorite. I would have flipped it the other way.
Well, it was flipped about a couple hours ago.
I would have made it Vandy favored by 1.5, just simply because of Memorial Gym. What do I think ends up happening? I think the second half blahs that have been happening go away, mostly because of a wildly energetic Memorial Gym. If you've been in that facility in the last month and a half, that place is hopping again. It is one of the great old arenas in this country. And tomorrow, I think it propels Vandy to the win over Ole Miss. The second game, and I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, and I know it. Oklahoma, a must-win game at home against a Mississippi State team that has had a revival in the last week with some really impressive wins. But Oklahoma's got their back to the wall, and in Norman, they're going to find a way to win. Now, let me say this again about Mississippi State. They don't play like this every night. And if they did, they'd be a lot scarier. It would not surprise me if Oklahoma doesn't get State's A game, thus making it a little easier to get the win. And the third game that's not getting a lot of national attention, but it probably should, out of the ACC, Clemson, the biggest surprise, right up there with Duke in the ACC standings. Not far behind them is SMU, based out of Dallas. Think about it. This is a school that had to buy their way into the ACC. They got to the ACC football title game, and now they got a real shot to get in the NCAA tournament. I think they beat Clemson tomorrow. They're a 1.5 favorite. So let me review. I'm taking Vandy plus 1.5 at home against Ole Miss. I'm taking Oklahoma minus 1.5 at home against Mississippi State. And I'm taking SMU minus 1.5 at home against Clemson. Billy, that's sticking your neck out.
Yeah, that Oklahoma bet is a dangerous one. I mean, but
shaky.
They'll be desperate. I could see them pulling that out. Vandy, I could certainly see them pulling that out. We're going to learn all we need to know about Vandy tomorrow. This could be their fate in my mind. I know they've got some other winnable games.
I just don't think this is where their season is going to die. Just don't think so.
I don't think so either, but Ole Miss is a good team. So we'll see.
All the fun begins tomorrow at 11 in the morning with Tennessee and Texas A&M, and that will be a defensive rock fight.
A boxing match for brunch.
Get ready for some intensity. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday. And until then, so long, everybody.